Hey everybody, it is Timothy Roy here. How are you? And happy Monday. It is Monday, it is Body Message Monday, it is Calgary in Alberta, and it is a beautiful day. It's the first one we've actually had in a little while. We had some really amazing weather followed by some not so amazing weather, but you know what? It's just weather. But when I was thinking about what to talk about today with Body Message Monday, what a really dear friend of mine, Jesse, suggested was that to talk about gardening. And you see behind me, there's some actually compost bins that are behind me. And we actually have our own garden every year. And we get really excited for what it is because we like knowing our source of our food. And the more we can actually produce ourselves and know the people that we get ourselves from directly and how they operate, the better we are. But that's not what I'm really here to talk about. That is just something that is a suggestion that I think you would do well to listen to and heed in your own world, is to know your source, and at all levels, quite frankly. But know the source of your nutrition, know the source of what's happening also in your body. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about the body as a garden, right? And so if we take the gardening analogy, which is actually quite good. It's a very, very strong metaphor for what it is that we do in the deep issue massage world, right? So what we do is, like, the first thing we do when we're gardening at the year is we're going to have to rototill, right? And then weed, rototill, and prepare the soil. And when we're dealing with beliefs, we're looking at beliefs from the perspective of more of the weeding perspective. Like, what are all the beliefs that we need to weed out, and what do we need to get in there that's interfering with the beginning of beautiful new growth that you want in its desired form. And so the first thing we do is weed. Okay. Now, you also have to plan. In order to have a garden, you need to kind of plan what you're going to seed. So, do you want a row of carrots? Do you want 2 rows of carrots? Are you going to grow them in a row? Are you going to grow them in a patch? How do you want to do? You have to put a little bit of thought into this, and then be willing to make the mistakes from year to year to year in order to make a best optimized garden. And watching what it is that you sow. So let's consider this idea of like the seeds of emotion. If you take into consideration what it is that you emote, right? The emotions that you feel. We have a tendency to self-identify with those emotions. But you gotta watch it, because the importance of doing work such as we do is that eventually those seeds are going to take root, and they're going to start to come up, right? Some seeds take a longer time than others to germinate. So, for instance, there are some things like a shallot or garlic, where you need to actually plant it in the fall as everything's going into hibernation, from what I understand, in order to get really good garlic, because they seem to need to go through that period of hibernation before they do an amazing job. And you know what? If you're gardeners out there and you do it differently, forgive me. I'm more of the muscle power and stuff like that when it comes to the gardening, and my wife steers the boat, so to speak. But continuing with our metaphor, you still got to be careful about what it is that you want to plant. Like, if you want a tomato, you probably shouldn't plant an orange. And so it's really about getting congruent with what it is that you're after, and what it is that you want to feel in your life. Because if you don't do those things, you're just going to be, whatever's going to grow, something's going to grow there. Something is going to grow there. And it's up to you to either be at the kind of reactionary in the victim sense. It's like, what, I have this garden, and I don't know, it's full of this weed that I don't even know what it is. Maybe it's chickweed, maybe you can actually use it. But chances are it's not the beautiful rows of carrots or something that you want. So plan for what it is that you want to plant. So in the world of deep issue massage, we talk about freedom from and freedom to. In the phase 1, we're doing freedom from work. We're doing the weeding, right? And then what we end up with, getting ready for phase 2, is a beautifully weeded, completely rototilled garden ready for planting. But now you need to move into the time of, like, what is it that I want to plant? What is it that I desire to experience? But more importantly, how will what I plant make me feel? Because I'll tell you this, I did a session this morning, a deep issue session, and we were talking about what is it that she wants, right? And she goes, well, What I want is to be better integrated with the work that I do. And I said, well, that's not actually what you want. And she's like, what do you mean that's not what I want? Well, and then we unpacked it a little bit. And what we're really after is how, like in our coaching that we did, the kinetic coaching module that we did not last week, but the week before, we talked about work and business and career. And what it was is that basically you're coming at it from two different perspectives. You either look at work as a means to an end, and you can bring your happiness into it and not be affected by whatever happens at work. That's one type of person. But the other type of person is the one who's really seeking to bring all of themselves into the type of work they do, and so they feel good in the type of work that they're doing. So the work almost doesn't matter from the perspective of, I'm looking for how I can make it an extension of myself, and I want to feel good. So in this case, it was being better integrated with work is not actually what she wanted. What she wanted to do was to feel good with what she thinks is going to happen by being better integrated with work. So when you're looking at those, how do you feel if you design your garden, your body garden, if you will, with how it is that you feel. So for instance, the nutrition that you put in it is like a seed. Whatever nutrition you put in it is like a seed that is going to grow. It might grow in 1 year, it might grow in a few months, it might grow in 10 years, it might grow in 50 years when you've been planting it full of sugar or whatever other kind of, Henry chocolate bars. I don't know what it would be for you, but those choices that we make every day about what it is that we're planting, those things need to be taken care of, because eventually they're going to germinate and they're going to grow. So it's just something to consider. So moving into that freedom from, plan for what it is that you want to feel. So you plant stuff that is going to give you that experience, for instance, that you can take nutritionally and that will make you feel a certain way, right? Planting a whole garden of potatoes, for instance, well, potatoes can be pretty volatile to the old system if you don't have the right mechanics inside you to deal with all of those potatoes. But they're easy and they're delicious, right? But they're kind of explosive in how they can actually respond in the body. Some even say to avoid things like potatoes in the favor of nightshade vegetables that can be really acidic and inflammatory to the body. But not always as simple as that. So once again, the nutrition, that's a seed. The other thing is, the other seeds that you can consider of is like, what kind of relationships am I part of? So like if I'm in a toxic relationship and that's the seed that I'm planting year after year, well, guess what? That is the crop that you produce. That's the yield, right? The next one is also then your thoughts. What kind of thoughts do you have from year to year to year? And those are also going to plant, germinate, and then eventually they're going to sprout. So once again, getting to that bottom, just keeping on track of it, right? You just want to keep on track. We don't weed our entire garden because we want a certain ecosystem in our garden. We're not those people that have like the beautifully clean black rose, but our garden grows out perfectly, and the stuff that we've planted in our garden helps us feel really good on a day-to-day basis. And that's what we're really after. So at least when things show up in your world that aren't incongruent, you say, you have checked this and you've checked this and you've checked that about the seeds that I've actually planted, well, then we can look for any incongruencies. We can look toward that and continue unraveling this beautiful thing that we call life. So there you have it. That's my little quick off-the-cuff synopsis of the body as a garden. And I hope you enjoyed it. And you have any questions, please leave me a message below or send me an email at Tymothy at Tymothy@deepissuemassage.com, and I'll be happy to respond to you if you have any questions. I love that this, such as like this suggestion by my friend Jesse, if I can weave it into the material, I'd love to weave your question in there. So have a wonderful day. I'm Tymothy Roy, and make today a great one.